Did you just gavel?
Huh?
Did you gavel us in?
Oh, it was on the
Letting
mark.
the-
We're
yes,
ready to go?
yeah,
Okay, folks, yeah, it's 4 o'clock, so we'll start the meeting. It's February 23rd, 2023, and this is the Board of Public Works meeting. We will start with roll call.
Commissioner Moriarty?
Here.
Commissioner Shoneman?
Here.
Commissioner Lehman?
Here.
Commissioner Shea?
Here.
Sorry.
Thank you, and the mayor states that he could not be here tonight due to another commitment, so I will be presiding over today's meeting. Okay, roll call. We have a quorum, and so we'll continue. Item number 2, Commissioner Shea.
The motion is to approve the agenda as submitted.
Okay. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Item number 3, Commissioner Lemon.
The motion is to approve the minutes of the Board of Public Works meeting of January 26th, 2023.
That is the motion. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And that motion passes. Item 4 is public comment. Is there any members of the public? Okay, seeing none, we will close public comment and move on to the street department. I'm sorry, we're going to go out of order here and do the street department first, if there's no objection by the other commissioners.
No objection.
Okay. So, under street department, item A, Commissioner Shea.
The motion is to approve change order 1 to Permaline of New England, Brockton, Massachusetts, in the amount of $10,000. Funding for this purchase is through Department 161 Streets, Fund General, Account Classification 61, Supplies and Materials.
Thank you. Superintendent Ibarra.
Thank you, Commissioners. John Ibarra, Superintendent, Street Department. This is to add $10,000 out of our operating budget to the sign vendor that we use. This year we've replaced a lot of faded, worn out, broken signs. We came up on our $25,000 purchasing threshold, so I'd like to add an additional $10,000 out of my operating budget to that line so we can continue to work with Permaline.
Okay, seeing no questions, then we'll move for a vote. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
And opposed, no one. Motion passes, thank you. Item B, Commissioner Lemon.
I motion to approve the purchase of one 2023 International Cab and Chassis from Liberty International in Manchester, New Hampshire, in the amount of $110,850 pursuant to the State of New Hampshire contract number 800-2661. Funding will be through Department Street Fund Trust Activity SURF.
John Ibarra, Superintendent, Street Department. So this will be replacing a frontline unit in our snow operations and our earthwork operations. It'll be used almost daily in one aspect or another. We'll keep the old truck as a backline unit until it's no longer viable or feasible to keep it going. And as you may or may not know, these truck purchases that we're getting off SURF, we're seeing these trucks being delivered 18 months, almost 2 years from the time we approve them. So we got lucky and found this one. Happy to answer any questions you may have.
I'm just curious, it doesn't have very many miles on it.
These trucks are usually done by the hours,
Oh, okay.
but, excuse me, we do run them also in the most corrosive environments, so the undercarriages take a beating.
Oh.
The bodies, the cabs, the wiring harnesses, and the frame rails.
No further questions. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
And that motion passes. Item C, Commissioner Shoneman.
I move to approve the purchase of one HV 507 dump truck plow upfit package from Viking Sieves USA of Williston, Vermont, for the total purchase price of $134,600. Funding will be through Department Street, Fund Trust, Activity, Surf.
John Ibarra, Superintendent Streets. This is the upfit package, so the spreader, the iron, which is the plow and the wing, and we'll also get a liquid application tank for our brine system. And again, happy to answer any questions you may have about that.
It costs more than the truck.
Commissioner Shea? Oh, sorry.
Sorry. It costs more than the truck.
It's a lot of iron. It's state-of-the-art equipment, which allows us to do our job properly and efficiently.
Okay. Sorry.
No, that's quite all right. And for the brining, do we only have one brine truck right now, so this will give us a second one?
No,
Or-
we have eight
We have 8? Okay.
8 liquid application tanks, or 900-gallon tanks, and then we have, I believe it's 10 saddle tank trucks. So we can either pre-wet or put liquid down.
Thank you.
What I mean by pre-wet is spray the salt or sand as it's coming off the truck before it hits the road.
Okay.
Minimizes bounce, keeps it in the lane versus over to the gutter, and it activates the salt quicker.
The things you learn at the Board of Public Works meetings.
Okay, any further questions, Commissioners? No? All in favor of the motions, please say aye.
Aye.
And that motion passes. Okay, Commissioner Shea, item D.
The motion is to approve the purchase of one 2023 Ford F-550 four-wheel drive dump body trucks from MHQ in Marlboro, Mass. For the contract price of $99,392.71. Pricing for this purchase will be from the Plymouth County Commissioner's contract. Funding will be through Department 177, Park and Recreation, Fund, Trust, Activity, Surf.
Good evening, everyone. Brian Conant, Superintendent of Parks and Recreation. This is going to become a frontline truck. It's replacing a 2012. We use these trucks for various things, towing our equipment. It's used heavily in the winter to treat the 14 schools and the 8 intercity routes that we do. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, no questions. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And that motion also passes. Thank you so much, Superintendent. Moving on to wastewater department, Commissioner Lemon, item A.
I motion to approve the user warrants as presented.
Thank you, that's the motion. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And that motion passes. Item B, Commissioner Shoneman.
I move to approve the contract with Wright Pierce to provide preliminary design plans and specifications for the Phase 1 upgrades project in an amount not to exceed $166,515. Funding for this contract will be through Department 169 Wastewater, Fund Wastewater, Activities, Phase 1 upgrades.
Good evening, Dave Boucher, wastewater superintendent. Wright Pierce is the engineering firm we hired to do a 20-year facility plan. This facility plan found projects that need to be done over the next 20 years, urgent projects, and they broke it out into 3 different phases. So currently, we're working on the first phase. So this motion is to hire Wright Pierce to do the preliminary design work on these projects. Some of the projects that are covered under this is concrete repairs to several different parts of the facility, some of our tanks and some of our buildings. We have replacement of 6 large process gates also in this. Addition of a second catwalk for our chlorine contact tanks. The replacement of 2 flow meters. They're underground flow meters. And we have a sludge pumping building that needs repair on all 3 floors. New HVAC system, chlorine piping, new pumps, an addition of a 3rd chlorine storage tank. Also include the project to reroute some plumbing underground that carries tank drain liquid to a different part of the process for better management of the process. Wright Pierce has done several projects throughout the facility. They're a good company. We think by using them, they had done some of the initial investigation work on these projects, So by using them, we could see some savings, finishing some of the preliminary designs quicker and at a lower cost. Be happy to answer any questions. Yes?
Mr. Sherman?
So this is just the cost to do the designs. It seems like a really extensive project. Do you have an idea what this project is going to cost in total?
I do not know total cost, because
Ballpark?
it's several small projects. But to lump it all into one contract is the goal.
Okay.
Okay, seeing no further questions, we'll move the motion. All in favor, please say aye.
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 And that motion passes.
Thank you.
Superintendent. Moving on to the engineering department. Commissioner Shea, item A.
The motion is to approve the sewer service permits and fees as submitted.
That is the motion. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Item B, Commissioner Lemon.
Motion is to approve the poll license petition as listed in the staff report.
Again, that is the motion. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
That motion passes. Item C, Commissioner Shoneman.
I move to approve Amendment 2 to the engineering services contract for tasks required by the EPA MS4 permit with Hazen and Sawyer PC of Manchester, New Hampshire, in an amount not to exceed $123,339. Funding will be through Department 169 wastewater, Fund wastewater, activity stormwater abatement.
Good afternoon, Dan Hudson, City Engineer. So as noted, this is work that's required by the EPA. We are permitted under the MS4 permit, which allows us to have our drainage discharges to waterways. We have over 359 of those throughout the city. As part of this EPA permit, we're required to go sample at each of those, and then as we find illicit discharges, to chase those upstream and remove them. We're required to prepare and submit an annual report as part of the permit. So each September, there's a quite complicated permit to submit to stay in compliance with this permit requirement. So it's a lot of work. We've engaged Hazen for the last few years to help with this, and we're seeking to extend their contract to encompass the work that's required this year.
Commissioner Shoneman.
To be clear, this is not part of wastewater. This is strictly city sewers, unrelated to the stormwater system that wastewater is doing.
Yeah, that's correct. So the wastewaters covers a lot of combined systems where the stormwater is combined in with the sewage system and goes to the treatment plant. This is not that. This is addressing the other outfalls where there's collection from catch basins and pipes, and that gets discharged directly to waterways. So that's under a different permitting regime, so to speak, as the wastewater stuff.
I see. So there's a whole different stormwater system
Yes.
that is city, not wastewater. That's
In
interesting.
the more urbanized areas, there's less of that separation. You tend to find that in other places that have developed later in time. But yes, we have an extensive combined system in the city, but this permit doesn't address that. It addresses everything else. So yeah, I don't know if I could get you a better statistic. It's not a 50-50. It's probably more wastewater than separated drain, but we do have quite a bit of separated drain. And over time, we've been working to separate additional areas as we can. The most recent project we did, I think, was on Marshall Street, where we went and put a whole new drain line in separate from the sewer to be able to disconnect the drainage from the sewer. So.
Interesting. And if I could ask, just out of curiosity, this stormwater that runs off can go directly into the waterways and doesn't have to be treated in the same way. Why is that?
Well, I could spend an hour talking about that. It's just how the things have come to be with the permitting. Some communities are going to, trying to separate everything because that is the current permitting requirements. But, what we anticipate is over time, there's going to be more stringent requirements. Part of this permitting is you got to test the outfalls. If you find issues, then they're going to make us go and address those over time upstream. So Nashua has taken kind of a different approach where we haven't necessarily tried to separate everything. We've done a hold and treat type of system where most of the combined stuff, or actually the combined stuff still goes to the treatment plant, and there's nothing better for water treatment than a wastewater treatment plant. So we'll see where it all goes in the future, but right now the permit requires at least this sampling, and later years, it's a multi-year thing, but in the later years of the permit, they're going to require more and more work to try to address whatever we find as part of the sampling work.
Interesting, because we spent just unbelievable amount of money to meet what the EPA has said, to take all the stormwater extra runoff and put it into the wastewater system. Like you said, building a whole new system, except for the stuff that doesn't have to go there. It seems odd.
Yeah, I mean, some areas aren't even feasible to separate really just because of grading issues. So, yeah, we'd never get to 100% separation probably, but regardless, we're under this permitting criteria. I mean, everything used to go straight to the river, so at least now we've got majority of the wastewater taken care of, and now we're addressing through permitting, through this MS4 permit, we're addressing the stormwater.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
When you find something, since you're sampling, and you said it's over time, so when you find something showing up that's not supposed to be there, what do you do next? Just, I want to know.
Well, we have to, the first thing is you go back in another storm and test it again, just make sure that what you're finding is consistent. It wasn't an anomaly, basically. But then we'll have to do additional sampling and testing and monitoring, working our way upstream. It depends what it is. If it's bubbles are coming out, it's like laundry detergent, hopefully you can chase that out and find out who the offending party is, discharging that to our system. But other things, it's possible there's still a sewer connection somewhere that, got missed at some point in time and needs to be connected and cut over and connected. So this is the beginning of the investigation process, and they will require that we chase those things to their ultimate conclusion as we go forward in future years.
Okay.
Great. Okay, all in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
And that motion passes. Move on to item number D, Commissioner Shea.
Item D is to approve the award of the construction contract for the 2023 paving program, Contract 2, to Sunshine Paving Corporation of Hudson, New Hampshire, in the amount of $6,185,248.50. Funding through department, funding through department, 160 admin engineering and 169 wastewater. Funds, bond, trust, and wastewater activities, paving, sewer improvements, and stormwater.
Good evening. Mark Saunders, Deputy City Engineer. So this is the second contract for our annual paving program. To give you a couple quick highlights of this contract, it's looking to pave about 15.5 miles of roadway. That encompasses 90 roadways and about 37,000 tons of asphalt. This is the second contract. This is focused on residential roadways. We put this contract out to bid in early January, and we received bids middle of February, several weeks ago, with Sunshine Paving being the qualified low bidder. Also accompanying this motion, we did attach the next motion, Motion E, which is a informational, which will give you the street list as well as a map. And I'm happy to answer any questions on this contract.
Commissioner Shoneman.
I don't recall, I don't have the paperwork, but the first contract, what was the total on the first contract that we approved? Do you know?
Just around $1.8 million.
Okay. So is this it for 2023?
This-
$8 million dollars?
Yes, these two contracts together will be 2023's paving program, correct?
That's a lot of money.
And this has already been bonded by the alderman?
Yes, it has.
Um,
Well,
I-
approved to bond by the alderman. They usually, like this won't, they won't be bond, it's usually, the way it works is they bonds after the work is done, so it's kind of strange, but
So the
yes.
approval is done.
But it has, so we had an original 5 years at $7.5 million approved. We went through that part, and then the Board of Aldermen approved another 5 years at $7.5 million, which will get most of our streets up to speed. And we had fallen so far behind that there was just no way that we could get them up to speed without bonding, and because it was never funded appropriately. Now,
Right.
after this program, we'll make sure that it's funded appropriately, so we don't get back into the situation again.
Which is an excellent approach.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
I can ask the director, how do we do debt service for these kind of bonds?
So that's a financial question. I could ask CFO Griffin to come and speak to that at our next meeting if you like.
Okay. So just as a note, when they come to us to approve digging into streets that are in moratorium, this is the reason why I object. This is a lot of money, and it's our kids that are going to pay for it. So that's my objection. And maybe, I don't know if it's appropriate to say it here, but that's just, this is a lot of money, $8 million total. I know it needs to be done.
Right.
And I know that it's important. But if we're going to spend this amount of money to pave the roads and get them done, let's not dig into them in the first year or two. And I feel like we should have the right to say, no, we're not going to approve this hardship request because it's destroying the streets that we just paid $8 million for, or we just borrowed $8 million for. So that's it.
Yeah. And that certainly is the board's right to deny those requests. Sure.
Except that we've given away that right. At least with Liberty. With some of them, we've said, okay, well, you can just dig into whatever you need to dig into. That's my objection.
But the flip side of that is those you're talking about the level 2 requests.
Level 2 gas leaks.
Yeah, so those have to be done, though you would not have the authority really to say no. I mean, you could say no maybe temporarily, but the PUC would force that work to be done, which the city does not have the authority to say no to the PUC. So we wouldn't be able to say no to those, unfortunately. But I understand what your point, that it's unfortunate to spend all this money and then cut into streets. But we've to some degree I'm sorry, Commissioner Shaw, just saying, to some degree we've created this problem also. Just to be fair, because we're doing so much paving in such a short amount of time, that, there are times when there just are truly hardships that need to move forward. And the utilities have been great with working with us and trying to get everything done, but things do unfortunately come up, and so. Okay, Commissioner Shea.
So I kind of have a procedural question, or I guess like a board authority question. So I see that we've gone with the lowest bidder for the paving contract. I mean, there's no, it's quite clearly the best bid. But I also see Newport Construction listed as a interested party that applied to a bid on the contract. So my question is, you know, we consider the costs as far as dollars go when considering contracts like this. To what extent do we have the ability to consider community impact in supporting a business that has applied a bid? It's my understanding that Newport is still seeking to build an asphalt facility in the downtown area. And I know that it's not relevant to this because what's being put before us is to approve a contract with Sunshine. But in the future, I'm curious to what extent we as a board, if we have a conscientious objection to the asphalt plan, to what extent we have the authority to object to a contract on grounds outside of the dollar amount.
That's a good question. I guess I'd defer to Attorney Bolton for that, and I could ask him
Yeah, that would be
question
appreciated.
and then either have him come or provide you with the answer.
Because I don't know how other commissioners feel on this issue, but where we have, you know, so much interaction with asphalt, and I see this issue coming up and again in the community, people are very concerned. You know, I'm just wondering to what extent we have any ability to dissuade the construction of the facility. That's really my interest. So I appreciate
I'm happy
more
to ask that
information.
question.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a question that's just about the way the streets are listed in the
Commissioner Lemon,
packet.
yeah.
So if I'm reading this correct, because I live on Manchester Street, so I picked a street that I know. So Air, I know where that is. So is it Air to Manchester and then to Concord?
Yep,
Because
y-
like
yep.
Farley, it says Farley, city limit, so does that mean all of Farley until the city limit?
So Farley Road is kind of an island. It's a part of Nashua, but you have to go
Yeah.
through Hollis to get
To get
there.
there,
So
yeah.
the limit of that would be the city limit to the city limit. So
Okay.
in the case of Air Street, it's Manchester to Concord.
Okay.
All of these, on a very rare case, will break up a street into segments. There's usually a reason for it, but it's usually start point to end point, and the whole street's completed.
Okay, great, thank you.
Mark, to that point, I have a question. And it's a selfish question because I live in the area.
What's the street?
Okay, well, I saw on your list, Berkeley Street was
Yeah.
going from Layton Street to the end.
Right.
And then I saw Raymond Street, which is of interest to me, went from Cortlandt to the end. So it didn't go to Layton to the end.
So with those two roads, there's a lot of utility work going on out there. Gas was just in there. This is to touch on your point about the moratorium. We do try to tail the new work the gas is doing. So gas just updated all their infrastructure on Raymond Street. But we're actually going to break that street up into two segments. One segment's going to get a more in-depth treatment, which is going to be reclamation. That's going to be Cortlandt to Layton, while the other half, Cortlandt to the dead end of Berkeley, is going to get just a resurface.
That explains it. Thank you.
Explain on this list is by known order and then alphabetical, known order, and then alphabetical by.
Yeah. Yeah, so with the list we sent, we did send it, it's alphabetically, but that's per treatment, and then when we go into the next treatment, it's also alphabetically. So for example, Raymond comes up 2 times in this list. We break it up for this so that the contractors know what treatment goes to what road. We will be posting on our website, as this contract moves through the approval process, a more of a stripped-down version that's just all the roads in alphabetical order for the constituents and residents to go in and look at and not be so much confusion, but it's set up this way to benefit the contractors who are bidding on the package.
Very good.
My road's not on there.
Okay. Any further questions on the motion, the paving motion? Seeing none, we'll go for a vote. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? No one. That motion passes. Thank you. Item E is informational, which is the paving program contract, list of roadways and map. Item F is also informational, street opening permits issued for streets in the moratorium. So no motion is required. From there, we'll move on to the Park and Rec Department. Also, we have informational items with no motion involved. So item A, and after I read these, should there be any questions, the superintendent is here. So item A would be irrigation installation cost around band shell at Greeley Park. We'll start with that one. How
Yep.
about that,
Yeah,
Superintendent?
absolutely. Thank you, Commissioner Moriarty. Brian Conant, Superintendent of Parks and Recreation. It was several meetings ago. I think it was you, Commissioner Shea, had asked me to look into this.
Thank you.
I did some cost, evaluations, investigations, and this is what I came up for, materials installation and a new water service that would feed this irrigation system. So I'd be happy to answer any questions if there are any.
I think would the water service be like a third of this cost?
What's that?
Would the water service itself be like a third of this cost?
No,
Or
I
would
think
it be up?
the water service installation was right around $9,000, so.
Okay.
And is there some sort of like, I know we have a plan for paving. Is there some sort of plan that we could incorporate this into so that we can expect to budget it at some year in the future?
Do you like to answer that, Director?
The superintendent has lots of ideas for
Don't I?
I mean, if there is, I know that there's a lot of moving parts, and I'm not asking you to
So-
establish one if there isn't
So,
one,
I mean,
but,
this is something that we could talk about when we have our budget
okay.
workshop, things that you all feel, the commissioners feel are important that should be incorporated into the budget. This would be something, I think that would be the time when we could talk about that. And then ultimately, it would be up to us to appeal to the Board of Aldermen to fund it.
Okay.
So this is something, this is in your capital request, I think.
Yes, I was gonna
So-
comment on that.
We have put this in a capital request, so.
Great.
Yeah, we asked
It
for
would just be a-
$3.5 million on our capital request for Greeley Park improvements. So, and that would cover fencing improvements, paving, this irrigation system, improvements that are needed to the band shell, the stone house, and the wading pool. So,
So we can go over all of those things if you'd like during our budget workshop and get your
Okay.
input on what you think is important.
Thank you. Thank you for the pretty pictures of the playground.
you're welcome.
Much appreciated.
Well,
Nice to see some color
let's
on
not jump the gun here now.
Oh, sorry, pardon me.
Okay. Let's get to item number B, which
Point of
is the Arbor Jet Inc. Bronze Birch Borer Study. Superintendent, if you want to explain that?
Yes,
Oh, I'm sorry.
Dr. Grossman is here, too, if you have any questions for him. I think this is a great opportunity. This is a common practice in trees that you'd like to preserve. This would be at no charge to us. That's why I thought it was something that we should take advantage of. And I don't know if you have any questions, but
Proposals if you're interested in seeing copies for everybody.
So why don't you come to the mic, introduce yourself, and give us a little blurb on it, okay? For the residents of the city.
Yes, thank you. Good afternoon, Don Grossman, entomologist with Arbor Jet. We're a tree healthcare company out of Woburn, Mass. We specialize in tree injection, so we inject insecticide or fungicides into trees to protect them against different insects and disease problems. We've been very successful in protecting ash trees against emerald ash borer. Our product called Triage is very effective and a treatment will last for 2 to 3 years. So you have a very similar beetle, bronze birch borer, which is native to the United States, that attacks birch. And we are looking at testing One is a product that's already registered called Imajet, contains imidacloprid. The other formulation is experimental. We're looking to combine two active ingredients together. We call it a broad spectrum. We want to test it to see how effective it is against bronze birch borer, as well as an aesthetic pest called birch leaf miner. And so I approached Mr. Conant about utilizing your city's trees, or birch trees, to include in a trial to evaluate these treatments. And we would inject and we would monitor the trees over a year to 2 years. And all the product goes into the trees. There's no environmental impact outside. We're just looking for trees. There is no cost to the city. We're just looking to evaluate these products, how effective they are.
I just have a few. Now, one of my questions, and I'll ask you the same question. There's no chance that this could damage our trees. Is that
No.
correct? Okay.
There's a caveat. In order to get the product into the trees, we need to drill small holes around the base. We set a plug in those holes. Through the plug, we actually inject the chemical. We're trying to access the tracheal or vascular system of the tree that carries water and nutrients from the roots up into the crown. So we utilize that system to transport the chemical up into the crown to the target areas where the insects attack. There is slight wounding, but no more than what would occur if you were pruning branches or something like that. The tree compartmentalizes around the wound. It recovers. Again, there's no, all the chemical goes into the tree. We have never lost a tree as a result of our treatments. If you don't treat your tree and the insect attacks, it's going to die. So we generally focus on those pests that are capable of killing trees. And again, because we do drill holes, we're trying to do the least amount of harm to the tree, but be able to save it. So,
Thank you.
Commissioner Shea.
Is the birch borer like a beetle type bug, like the emerald
Yes.
ash borer?
yes, it's a sister species. Same. The genus is called Agrylus.
And is it,
Both the emerald ash borer and bronze birch borer are in the same genus.
and is this a mild temperature migration creep issue?
I'm
So,
sorry.
so I guess this is native to the U.S.
Yes.
And I believe are birch trees native to
Yes.
North America?
The issue is that sometimes under drought conditions, the trees become stressed. These beetles are somewhat secondary in that they come in and take advantage of the stressed tree and try to colonize it, and ultimately they'll kill it. But if we were to treat them, the chemical will kill the insect as it tries to bore in, and thus save the tree.
I'm just wondering if this is like an emergent issue for the region, or if this
No,
is, okay.
This is, again, native insect that kills birch forever.
Yeah.
But part of it is, again, looking at, we have a treatment that we know works, Imajet. We're looking at how does it compare to this new broad spectrum treatment. Is that broad spectrum able to not only protect against the bronze birch borer, but also the leaf miner, which is something that the Imajet doesn't protect against. So again, we're trying to have something that can cover more broader targets.
And so as just a follow-up, so as a broad spectrum agent, is there some probability that this may impact additional species of insects beyond the two target species?
Yes, except to say that if other insects are attacking or feeding on the tree, yes, they may be controlled or killed as a result of the treatment. But generally, if an insect is attacking a tree, it's detrimental. So,
Are there some insects that have a symbiotic relationship with the tree where they help to facilitate seed drop or help to the tree kind of manage growth in their pruning activity?
good question. With birch, I'm going to say not offhand. We do take into account, well, birch is wind pollinated, so it's not, bees are not affected. But regardless, on our labels, we indicate that you should treat after flowering, just on the precaution that, you know, we're not affecting beneficials. So it's highly unlikely that beneficial insects are going to be affected as a result of this treatment. It's only detrimental insects that are feeding on the foliage, boring into the tree in some fashion that are going to be affected. And so those insects are usually considered detrimental, and you would want to try to control them or protect the tree against them.
Yeah, in terms of a cost-benefit analysis, I'm a little concerned that I appreciate the need to kind of assess the effectiveness of this so that it could be applied for real agricultural uses and potentially preservation during periods of drought or some sort of climate shift. I am concerned that we would be applying this when it could potentially impact non-target insects, while at the same time doing so in a setting where this is a native species that is not necessarily an emergent migratory tree destruction issue. And so I'm just concerned that we are taking on risk as a community in doing this without necessarily having any regional benefit for like the emerald, the ash trees are truly in danger of being wiped out, like a Dutch elm or a chestnut-like issue. I just don't know that this is something that it doesn't cost us anything, but I don't know that it will benefit us, and there may be some risk that I don't know what bugs hang out on birch trees that also hang out on other trees that have some role with those trees. And that's a concern of mine.
I understand.
Yeah.
I'll say that these insects, or the bronze birch borer, attacks just about all birch trees. So there's paper birch. The European white birch is an ornamental tree that has been planted a lot. I don't know exactly when it was introduced, but a lot of people plant them for aesthetic reasons. They're a beautiful tree. Unfortunately, the bronze birch borer, because it's an exotic tree, the bronze birch borer is easily able to attack and kill those European white birch. And so, as a result, there's very few people can't normally plant this European white birch because of the bronze birch borer problem. They also attack paper birch, gray birch, other things, but they're native and they're somewhat less susceptible, but the insect can kill these trees under stressful situations. So again, we're trying to provide products and equipment that would allow homeowners, city, to treat their trees to protect them if this pest situation becomes more prominent. So again, we're trying to evaluate if this new product is going to be as effective, if not more effective, than our current option.
Would you say the primary customer would be the planter of the ornamental trees?
Homeowners that purchase trees for their property. Cities will try to diversify the trees, species that so that they're not getting into trouble like with emerald ash borer. Too many ash trees were planted. Now they're getting.
Well, and
So-
the just warmer climates, is they're able to survive the winters and,
Yes.
you know, it
Yeah.
makes the migration shorter each
Right.
year, and, yeah.
Part of it, sorry to interrupt, part of this is also working with Canadian government as well as tree, Bartlett Tree, Tree Company. They have operations in Canada as well. They're interested in trying to get our products registered in Canada as well. So it's a dual purpose type trial. We want to find out how effective our treatments are. We're also helping these tree companies to see if we can gather enough data to support the registration of these products in Canada as well. So Nashua would be helping overall to provide information that would allow us to get products registered for different purposes.
I appreciate the insight. So for this program, this is for information for us to review. Is there any sort of, you know, do we have a role in advising on whether or not we move forward with this, or, you know, to what extent has the Conservation Commission, have we touched base with them about the concept? I'd be interested to know.
None of these trees that we would inject would be close to a wetland or a water body, so I see no need to get the Conservation Committee involved.
Okay.
Just in Greeley Park alone, on the Stonehouse side, next to the gazebo, there's a beautiful paper birch. On the west side, where our offices are, there's two native white birches. They're very old, they're magnificent in size, and I think this is something that we should probably be doing to prolong the life of some of our very mature trees. Birch trees, given their bark, are very susceptible to insect damage. I think this is something we should be doing on some of our trees, regardless if we're in this study or not. That's personally how I feel, Commissioner. Just be a good, best management practice.
Director
So-
Photo.
Commissioner Shea, to your point, we could request an opinion from the state arborist
Okay.
on this, if you'd like.
Yeah, that would be much appreciated. Just the one thing that really sticks out for me is the broad spectrum nature of the agent and the potential for, you know, overspill. I know that it's confined to the tree, but, you know, the tree has circulation and things eat the tree and the tree drops things on the ground. And so that's my area of concern.
Sure.
So if we could get some insight.
Why don't I ask
Yeah.
for Brian, Superintendent Conant, why don't we ask the state arborist for their opinion
Okay.
on this, okay?
I'd be happy to do that.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much, and thank you for all the info.
Commissioner, don't go away yet. Commissioner Schoenman.
First of all, how many trees would you estimate, Mr. Conant, you'd be able to use in your sample size? How many birch do we have citywide? Is it just going to be in the parks, just in Greeley, or is it going to be?
We were just going to look in the parks, yes, Commissioner. And off the top of my head, I think we could probably, I don't think we're going to get to that 30 threshold. I was thinking we'll probably be around 20.
Okay.
I think he was going to do this in combination maybe with Manchester as well, so.
Okay, so you're looking for a sample size of 30 trees and?
At least.
At least between the two.
So
communities.
As many as you can
statistically,
get,
we
really.
need at least 6 replicates per treatment. We have 5 treatments, including untreated checks. And so statistically, to make it a valid trial, we need at least 6 replicates. Ideally, if we can get upwards of 10 per treatment, that's 50, that'd be great. But, so the way things are moving, I'll probably need to visit with Manchester, either the city or cemeteries, to see if I can find additional trees.
or Merrimack, or, someplace that is close by, the more similar the environment, you can choose your trees, of course.
Right.
As you know, it's gonna make your sample size, or your sample that much stronger.
Right,
Um,
right.
The other question I had was, we have an elm tree in our yard, and our tree guy said, be careful of when you prune it, because the critter that carries the Dutch elm can get in.
You have an elm or an ash?
I have an elm,
Oh, okay, elm.
kind of
Dutch
looks like
elm
an
disease,
umbrella.
Yes, yes.
Um,
So, the insect, the vector, is a beetle that carries with it the fungus. It emerges in the spring and it feeds in the branch crotches and introduces the fungus. I imagine that this insect has or is able to sense plant volatiles or chemicals that are emitted from stress trees and/or if the trees are pruned. So more likely not, if they're recommending a certain time, yes, you would want to be careful about when. But yes, you can treat, tree inject some of the products as well. That'll protect it against the disease. And
My question is, well, the tree guy said that the tree is vulnerable after you prune it. So like you said, maybe the insects can sense the volatiles and, sense those, and, hey, there's a way in to this tree. When you treat the birch, does it operate in a similar way? Does the bronze birch board, does it look for vulnerable points, or can it make its own way in
yes.
without any trouble?
So it's going to lay eggs on the the bark surface, and then the larvae hatch and start to bore through the bark into the cambial tissue. It's the layer just under the bark, but not into the wood. So, yes, a lot of these insects have the capability of detecting certain chemicals that are emitted from their host species. And so part of management is you're trying to reduce the stress that the trees are experiencing. So if it's drought, you need water. If it's you're disturbing the roots, that's going to stress trees out. So you try to reduce that damage as much as possible, so on and so forth. So yes, there is a very small chance that by drilling, we're releasing a little bit of host volatiles, but not to the extent that would be very
Threaten the tree,
attractive.
yeah.
It's more the overall health of the tree. If it's stressed, we had that bad drought last year, they're probably stressed. And it's going to take a while for those trees to recover. We have had better rains, so they're starting to recover. But if something else happens, again, whether it be wind damage, ice damage, root damage as a result of excavation, these are all things that are going to stress the trees out. And so by treating them with this insecticide, we can reduce the potential for actual colonization and mortality. Okay.
Great. I think we should do everything that we can to preserve these old, beautiful trees as much as possible.
Right. We've come up with calculations for like emerald ash borer and ash trees that we can treat a tree for 34 years before the cost of treatment exceeds the cost of removal and replacement of the tree. So it's really to the homeowner's advantage to treat if necessary, and continue to treat as long as that danger is present.
Dr.
Yes.
Grossman?
Yes.
I may have missed it, but what's the timeline on this study? When do you plan to begin?
So the beetles emerge in May, June. So we want to treat a little bit before that, but not, but after the flowering of the birch. So it'll be probably late May, early June. We are still working on the formulation of the broad spectrum.
Okay.
So our formulator chemist has been requested to try to come up with something that we can test by May. And then, so we'll treat in May, we'll follow it through the fall into next year, and assuming that we're seeing reasonable results, we will probably follow it for another year after that. And after a single treatment, we won't be treating again, at least for this trial.
So what I'm thinking is that what we will probably revisit this next month with a vote by the board. It's not it's not here for a motion, it's just informational. They're going to take the information home, review it. We're going to get an opinion from the state arborist, and then with any luck, it'll be on the agenda for next month for a vote to proceed. That's what I was trying to get at, what your timeline was, so that would be March.
Yeah, we have time.
You have time. Is there any further questions?
Yeah, no, and thank you for your patience as we gather more information.
Appreciate your interest. And
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, informational item number C, the Atherton Park Playground Design Concept.
Superintendent Brian Conant, Parks and Recreation. We had come to this body and proposed the Atherton Park Playground without the conceptual design, and I apologize for that. And here it is. So I'd be happy to answer any questions. I've talked to the vendor. The congos aren't that loud. I'm sorry, Commissioner Moriarty. So,
Good.
I have a question.
yes.
What does the thing that kind of looks like, it's on the third page, that kind of looks like a cross between an artist palette and a flower, what does that do? Oh, it's a bongo drum?
Yes.
Drum?
I would assume.
Yes, it is.
Oh, very cool.
Those are the congos.
Looks great. It looks fun.
Yes, it does.
I would say that this is a rad design.
I showed my 4-year-old son this design. He loves the T-Rex head, so that's all I've heard about it.
My 3-year-old's going to be terrified.
I knew what the T-Rex
We were at the
was.
barber shop today. He's like, "What's in that cabinet?" To the barber, and he's like, "Oh, it's a Tyrannosaurus Rex." He's like, "Oh, I'm scared of those." Not all dinosaurs, just the ones with the big teeth. So I'll surprise him. It'll be fun.
All right, any other questions for the superintendent regarding the playground design? Great, thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. Have a
Yeah.
nice night.
Moving on, Solid Waste Department, item A, Commissioner Lemon.
Motion is to increase the fee the solid waste department charges for contaminated soils from $25 per ton to $35 per ton.
Superintendent?
Jeff LaFleur, Superintendent of Solid Waste. As you guys know, we take in contaminated soils for our daily cover. We have to cover trash every day with 6 inches of cover material. So we took the opportunity, we've been charging the companies $25 a ton, and with all of the materials down in Massachusetts and all of their landfills closing, we're seeing an uptick that a lot of people want to bring material up to us. So we're taking this opportunity to increase the price and make some revenue off of it. I'm welcome to take any questions on this.
You think that's enough of an uptick?
Oh, absolutely. We
Okay.
could probably try to go for more, but we don't want to limit ourselves. As I said, we need the material to cover every day. I don't want to, take the chance of us not getting in enough of material. In the next few months, if we see that we're getting plenty of offers to bring in material, I will definitely bring it before you guys to raise it again, but we're just keeping an eye on what's going on.
Commissioner Shoneman.
When you say contaminated soils, can you give me an idea of what you usually see as far as contaminants?
We're state regulated, so we take in mildly contaminated. I mean, you say the word contaminated, it's very mild, like, there's some very little fuels in it, very little, there's no lead, we don't accept any lead, we don't accept PCB, so there's a limit of materials that we do accept at a threshold that we won't take over that.
Okay. And there's some kind of testing process, or you're taking them at their word?
No, it's a painstaking process that we have the companies do a test. They do it every 250 tons. So if they're bringing in 1,000 tons, they're doing four samples for every time. We're very stringent on that, and my environmental engineer, Darren Santos, that's the bane of his existence right now. He's reviewing test after test after test. But, it's good for us. We need it. It's good for a revenue source for us, so we're welcome to do it as often as we have to.
Okay, thank you.
No further questions. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
And that motion passes. Thank you. Item B, Commissioner Shoneman.
I move to approve a purchase order for Core and Main to provide 4,520 feet of 6-inch HDPE perforated piping and elbows, tees, and fittings for various ongoing landfill gas recovery well field maintenance, and expansions in the amount not to exceed $44,000, funding through Department 168 Solid Waste, Fund Bond, Activity Landfill Gas Expansion.
Jeff LaFleur, Superintendent Solid Waste. We're taking this opportunity. I have some really good operators up at the landfill. We do gas expansions yearly or fairly close to yearly at the landfill. I'm going to buy a whole bunch of material and hopefully be able to do it ourselves. If we can't do this, the material will still be used by the vendor that'll come in and install it. I'm very confident that we can do a lot of this work ourselves and, save the city some money. I just lost my train of thought, I'm sorry. We can do it. We're gonna do it as best as we can, and we're gonna try to recoup as much money as possible for the city.
Is there any special licensure required to do that work?
There's no special licenses for it. There's some special tools like welding equipment. We already have most of that on stock because we raise our wells ourselves. So this is just another added feature that we'll be able to do. If we have an emergency where we see some gas emissions coming out, we can go in there and immediately take care of it.
Thank you.
Thank you. No further questions? All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
And that motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent. Moving down, we have Administrative Department Director's Report.
Great, thank you, Commissioner Moriarty. The first slide that you're looking at is some Main Street catch basin CCTV inspection. And this is in preparation for our paving of Main Street. Engineering and wastewater are working together to inspect storm drain structures and pipes using closed-circuit television. So this is a picture of wastewater inspecting some storm drain structures on February 10th on Main Street. We have been preparing diligently for our move. It's been a tremendous amount of work, more than we expected. We have information dating back to the 1800s, so you can just imagine how much we're trying to put together. I think engineering has had the worst of it, but we're getting it done and getting ready for our move on March 13th. So actually, March 6th, and we'll be moving into the building on March 13th. So hopefully, knock on wood, everything goes well. We do not have an occupancy permit yet, so if the building department's watching, we certainly won't move in until we have that. But we anticipate having that. Hopefully, the end of next week. I think Harvey is hoping to have at least a conditional occupancy permit because we won't be able to do all of the landscaping until spring. So we'll have a conditional occupancy permit, and then we'll get the occupancy permit once everything's completed. So But it's been a lot of work, but everybody's getting very excited. The furniture is almost in. So this is, so we are, you remember we talked about the West Pearl Street project that we're doing, and in preparation for that, engineering is coordinating with budding property owners to gain access to building basements to perform inspections. And inspections have occurred over several days in early February, and they've actually revealed some historic underground structures that will be accounted for in the final construction documents. This is a picture of Greeley Park. It's very pretty. Certainly one of our Nashua treasures. This is tree removal that was, there was actually a hazardous tree that was in danger of falling, located in the right-of-way at the corner of Webster Street and Bartlett Ave. Another hazardous tree removal that we performed at the corner of Webster and Bartlett. We have, it has been cold enough, it's been a crazy winter, but it has been cold enough to do some ice making. We have a chiller at Roby Park, so we've been able to maintain ice there. It's been difficult, though, to maintain ice elsewhere in the city. That's something that we'd like to look at purchasing another chiller so that we could maintain ice in another area. We've had some conflict between hockey and public skating. We had a young woman who was injured, so we'd like to look at getting another chiller so that we could maybe dedicate one rink to hockey and one rink to public skating. This is some crowds that have gathered for sledding at Roby Park. We finally had some snow in our last storm. Biddy basketball is entering their playoff season this week. It's been an exciting year. We'll give you updates on how that goes, hopefully next meeting. This is a picture of our crews repaired residential sewer line. It was backing up at 11 Monterey Ave. Our crews have been clearing brush from the side of the road, and this is a line of sight issue on Baldwin Street. Our crews repaired a sinkhole due to a broken sewer pipe at 100 Factory Street. We've been doing a lot of pothole repairs with the fluctuation of temperatures. This is a catch basin repair at 10 Bradford Street, again, that our crews performed. We had, the wastewater crews worked to create a temporary seal on one of our secondary clarifier gates. The clarifier had equipment failure, which resulted in the tank having to be taken down. The seal on the gate failed and needs to be repaired. We did a temporary repair, and but it needs to be engineered, and we'll have to repair it, right? But right now, at least, we were able to repair it well enough to be able to take it offline. And you all have a poster from our 2023 recycling calendar contest, and the ceremony was held at City Hall on January 31st. So we had a small group of kids that were able to attend, but they were enthusiastic and excited to see their artwork on the calendar. And the construction of our new vehicle shelter has started at the landfill, so we'll be able to store our trash trucks primarily, but also other trucks under, to keep them out of the weather and elements, and to keep the snow off our vehicles. So that's going to be a huge improvement too as we move into our new building. And that's it. Any questions?
Is the old garage still going to be there?
At the landfill? Yes, for now. Until we can build a suitable garage, we'll need to use that for storage and other things. So that building will stay until we have a garage.
Director, with any luck, we'll be meeting at our new facility next month.
I'm not sure if it'll be next month, definitely April, hopefully.
Yep.
Hopefully.
Great.
It's gonna be tight because they're still working on, I think, getting all the kinks out with the CCTV and the cameras and all of that, so that'll all have to be ready to go before we have a meeting, but hopefully, if we can, we certainly will.
Thank you so much. All right, commissioner comments are next. Any comments by the commissioners? Seeing none, we'll proceed then. Under personnel, Commissioner Shea, if you can read motion A.
The motion is to approve and unseal the non-public minutes for personnel from the Board of Public Works meeting of January 26, 2023.
Great, thank you. All in favor of that motion, please say aye.
Aye.
And that passes, thank you. Item number B, Commissioner Lemon.
Motion is to accept the retirement of Robert Gitaboni, groundskeeper maintenance, effective February 28th, 2023.
Thank you, that's the motion. All in favor? Please say
Aye.
Aye, thank you. And Commissioner Shoneman, item C.
I move to accept the retirement of Tom Loans, Mechanic 2, effective February 24, 2023.
Thank you for the motion. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And that concludes personnel, though I think we're going into non-public, is that right? So,
We are non-public.
Commissioner Shoneman, if you could read that for us?
Sure. I move by roll call that the board go into non-public session pursuant to RSA 91-A3 2B, the hiring of any person as a public employee.
Commissioner Moriarty?
Yes.
Commissioner Shoneman? Commissioner Lemon?
Yes.
Commissioner Shea?
Yes.
Thank you.
elements like that are so much fun. We're back in public session.
Commissioner Shoneman.
I move by roll call to seal the minutes of the Board of Public Works Personnel non-public meeting of February 23rd, 2023, until such time as the majority of the board votes that the purpose of the confidentiality would no longer be served.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Moriarty?
Yes.
Commissioner Shoneman?
Yes?
Commissioner Lemon?
Yes.
Commissioner Shea?
Yes.
Great. That passes. There's only one motion left, right?
Yes, correct.
Commissioner Lemon.
I motion to adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. All right.
You know what's funny, real quick, is I personally had two of those ornamental birds.